Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about this weekend's boxing action. Alright, this weekend's action is going to be Jack Catterall taking on Harlem Eubank. This bout is going to be for the WBA International and IBF Intercontinental welterweight belts. Now I believe Harlem Eubank, he currently holds the IBF welterweight belt. So let's talk about each fighter. We'll start off with Jack Catterall. Now Jack Catterall, he's 32 years of age. 30 wins, 13 knockouts, 2 losses, neither of those coming by way of knockout. His 2 losses have both come from split decisions, so you can see that if Jack Catterall loses, it's not by very much. This will be a change of weights for Jack Catterall. He's moving up to welterweight. Was fighting at super lightweight, had success there, but is now searching for more success at welterweight. The last time we saw Jack Catterall fight, that was against Arnold Barboza, February of this year. Catterall lost that by split decision. I believe it was 113-115 across the board. 2 of those obviously going to Arnold Barboza. That fight was for the WBO interim super lightweight belt, which in the end Arnold Barboza won and got the opportunity to take on Teofimo Lopez at that Times Square card. Obviously Teofimo Lopez won that bout, I would say reasonably easy. Quite easy. Arnold Barboza really didn't do much at all in that fight, and it was Teo doing basically whatever he wanted in the fight, gets the win. I was quite disappointed in Arnold Barboza's performance, especially after we saw how well he fought against Jack Catterall. And we knew he was a good fighter, but just didn't really show up on the day, and Teo got the victory. Before that, he had a win against Regis Prograis. That was back in October of 2024. He won that comfortably by unanimous decision. Probably his best win. You would argue it's definitely up there. If it's not that one, it's probably Josh Taylor. But we'll get into that. He beat Jorge Linares and won comfortably by unanimous decision. That was before the Regis Prograis fight. But that Jorge Linares fight, I mean, Linares was going into that fight, I think, on a 3-fight losing streak. So, and then the big fights that he had was 2 fights against Josh Taylor. The first one in 2022, he lost by split decision. And then they rematched in May of 2024, and Catterall won by unanimous decision. I mean, we talk about how good Josh Taylor is. Obviously, his last outing against Eko Usman wasn't great, but Josh Taylor is no doubt one of the best Scottish fighters we've ever seen. And in my opinion, Jack Catterall won both fights. The first fight, I was surprised when they gave it to Josh Taylor. I thought Catterall did enough to win that fight. And then the second fight, Catterall left little argument to give Josh Taylor the victory. Great win by Jack Catterall, and I would say that one or the win against Regis Prograis are definitely his 2 best wins. Now we move on to talk about Harlem Eubank, 31 years of age, 21 wins, 9 knockouts, 0 losses. He is currently holding the IBF Intercontinental welterweight belt. Has also recently moved from super lightweight. He's had 2 fights at welterweight, so he's definitely got a bit more experience at this weight. But let's talk about his last few fights. His last fight was against Tyrone McKenna in March of this year. He won by round 10 TKO. Tyrone McKenna is definitely a British level fighter. He suffered losses to Lewis Croker, Regis Prograis. They were his biggest sort of opponents, and he has lost to them. So Tyrone McKenna is definitely sort of around Irish and British level at best. Before that, in November of 2024, he took on Nurali Erdogan. He won that by round 8 unanimous decision. And again, it was another fighter that's sort of a domestic level fighter, French guy. Most of his fights were in France, and that's sort of his level. And I'd say the same against Timo Schwarzkopf in November 2023, where Harlem won by around 11 TKO. Another level, like domestic level fighter. He's German level, but definitely not world level. And he actually took on Jack Catterall, Timo Schwarzkopf, back in 2019 and lost. So all three of those guys have had numerous losses in their career. They're definitely only a sort of domestic level fighter. And to be honest, I'd argue that Harlem Eubank is only a domestic level fighter. And going into this fight, I would expect Jack Catterall to dispatch of Harlem Eubank quite comfortably. Eubank seems very, very confident coming into this fight. And look, he's definitely a good fighter. There's no doubting that. I just believe that Harlem Eubank is a British level fighter, and that Jack Catterall is most definitely a world level fighter. And I think Jack Catterall is really going to try and chase down this welterweight division. There's some good fighters in this division. There's definitely some openings in this division. And this is sort of the first step of trying to vie for one of those belts. Obviously, Jack Catterall will be very disappointed that he didn't get that shot against Teofimo Lopez at super lightweight. But I think he beats Eubank comfortably, in my opinion, in this fight. And yeah, so let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. J.Cordina, he's taking on Jared Gonzalez. This is going to be for the WBO Global Lightweight title, which is vacant. J.Cordina, he's going to be looking to hit back after that loss to Anthony Cacace in Riyadh. That was his last fight, I believe, in May of 2024. Cacace, he won that by TKO. Now, that fight was for the IBF and IBO World Super Featherweight titles, so J.Cordina, another person making their move up in weights. This will be J.Cordina's first fight at lightweight, and he's coming off a long layoff now. We're talking a year and a bit. But J.Cordina, we know how good he is. 33 years of age, 17 wins, 9 knockouts. One loss, that one from Anthony Cacace, coming by way of knockout. Obviously, J.Cordina, he was at one point the holding and twice defending IBF Super Featherweight champion. But I would argue that he wasn't up against the most elite of the elite, and I'd say Anthony Cacace is definitely his hardest fight, and we saw what happened in that fight. He's coming up against a young fighter, 24 years of age, 17 wins, 13 knockouts, 1 loss. That one coming by way of knockout, Jared Gonzalez. Now, I will say Jared Gonzalez is definitely a young prospect fighter. I mean, he's had all his fights up until this point in his native Mexico. And this will be his first fight that even goes 10 rounds. So you can see how new and upcoming Jared Gonzalez is. This is a big challenge for the young Mexican fighter. He has suffered one loss in his career that came by a round 3 KO back in 2021. So since then, he's been winning all his fights. But I think this is just a step too big, too early for Jared Gonzalez. Now, I don't know much about him apart from what I can see online. But going off resume and experience, and going off the fact that I do rate J.Cordina very, very highly, I would expect J.Cordina to dispatch of Jared Gonzalez quite comfortably. All right, what else we got going on this card? Pat Brown, the former Olympian, he'll be having his third pro fight against fellow Brit Lewis Oakford. But as this is an Australian-based boxing channel, I do want to talk about S.Nicolson. 29 years of age, 12 wins, 1 knockout, and 1 loss. That loss coming in her last fight. Let's talk about S.Nicolson. Now, this is going to be her first fight at super bantamweight, making the move down from featherweight, 126 pounds down to 122 pounds. I was very surprised, very, very, very surprised that she made the move down, and she sort of made an announcement that she'll be changing weights, and when I went to listen to it, she said she was moving down. I couldn't believe it, because I do think that S.Nicolson was quite a tall and big featherweight fighter. To be moving down, it's quite impressive that she'll be able to cut that amount of weight. I know it's easier in the women's to go up and down the weights. I was just very surprised because, like I said, it wasn't like she was a small featherweight fighter, and so she's going to be quite big, I think, compared to most of her opponents that she'll come up against super bantamweight. And they actually did the face-off yesterday, which I'll get into when I introduce her opponent. But Sky Nicholson, she did hold and defend that WBC featherweight title twice. Last time out was her only loss, and when she lost her title, that was against Tiara Brown in March. That was in Sydney. She lost by split decision. I know lots of people believe that Sky Nicholson won that fight. I mean, I couldn't be more biased to the Aussie boxer, but I do believe she lost that fight. I believe she fought the wrong fight in there, and I think Tiara Brown was worthy of the victory in that fight. And Sky Nicholson, up until that point, she had some good wins, like her best win of her career coming against Raven Chapman. She also beat Diana Vargas. But Sky, she was a very experienced amateur as well. Didn't achieve what she desired in the Olympics, but since making the move to professional, has by far achieved some very good things and will achieve some very good things. Still quite young, 29 years of age. She's still got 4, 5, 6, maybe more years in her to achieve things in super bantamweight. If she wants to make the move back up to featherweight, she can definitely run through these divisions because she's got the right build for it, and it is easier in women's boxing. Now she's coming up against Carla Camilla Campos Gonzalez, 24 years of age, 9 wins, 8 knockouts, 3 losses, both coming by way of knockout. Bolivian fighter. Now, I saw the press conference and the first sort of face-offs yesterday, and Sky Nicholson is massive compared to her. I'll try and put a picture up on the screen so you can have a look, but like the height difference is unbelievable. Sky Nicholson's reach, she'll be able to use, I think, impeccably in this fight. She was already a good fighter at distance, like a very good fighter at distance, doesn't get hit at all. And to be honest, let's talk about her opponent. I want to be as respectful as possible, but Carla Gonzalez, she's fought most of her career domestically. I think she's fought twice abroad, once in France, once in Sweden. Did compete for the WBC Youth World Bantamweight title that was vacant in 2023. That was in France. That fight happened and she retired halfway through. I think it was an 8-round bout, or maybe it was a 6-round bout, but either way, halfway through, retired. But just go on BoxRec and look at her resume. It's to be honest, it's not great at all. And basically all the wins that she has have been short fights against fighters that are either making their debut or are 0-1 or 0-2. And she can't help that. She can only fight who she gets fed. And some of those fights she's won, some of those fights she has lost. But she's coming up against, I think, one of the top women boxers in the world right now. And this I think it'll be an easy night's work for Sky Nicholson, to be honest with you. Obviously, Sky Nicholson isn't a prolific knockout artist. She will win a fight by hitting you and not getting hit. Doesn't really matter how much damage she inflicts because you can't inflict any damage on her. She's so good at range fighting. Lots of that will sprout from her amateur career, but her height and reach, I think, will be just well and truly too good in this fight. It wouldn't surprise me at all if she does actually secure the second stoppage of her career in this fight, though, because I think that's how good Sky Nicholson is compared to her opponent this weekend. Sky Nicholson, she will be trying to win this fight quite comfortably. Obviously, she's made the move down, but because she was WBC champion for quite a few fights in featherweight, now she's in super bantamweight, she will get automatic sort of bump ups in rank, which is understandable and fair as long as she comes here and starts winning fights. But she's chasing down Ellie Scottney, no doubt. Now, Ellie Scottney, she's 10-0 WBO IBF ring champion, and she's coming up against the other champion, the WBC champion, in which will be the highest ranked for Sky Nicholson because she was WBC champion at featherweight, Yamalith Mercado. But those two are having a fight on that Taylor Serrano 3 card in a week and a bit now, July 11th. those are the names that she'll be chasing down, and no doubt I think she'll get to one of them sooner rather than later. How many fights it will take, I'm not sure. She wins this one substantially. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets bumped up all the way into an interim championship fight or whatever. So yeah, definitely she'll be looking to win this fight, and then all eyes on that July 11th card, which is a great card, by the way. If you don't know, get to know Taylor Serrano 3 at Madison Square Garden, July 11th, free on Netflix. So most people have Netflix. Definitely go and have a watch this, because this is possibly the greatest women's boxing card ever. Chantel Cameron, Ellie Scottney, Yamaleth Mercado, Alicia Baumgardner, Jennifer Miranda. Who else is on that? Chamika Johnson, Savannah Marshall. There's a few names there I'm missing, but definitely get on there. Lots of title fights. Obviously, I am, as well as a lot of you, are probably new, if not strangers, to the women's boxing. Look, I don't claim to be an expert. I know a lot of the big names. I know a lot of the champions. I have looked at that card. And I think that's understandable. I know a few of the fighters that fight domestically on Australian cards. Sometimes if they're on international cards, I'll get to know them. Obviously, I watched most of S.Nicolson's fights, but I don't proclaim to be an expert. But this is definitely a card worth watching if you're a boxing fan. And I think it's great exposure and a great sort of look into women's boxing for lots of people that haven't sort of got chances to watch it. It's free on Netflix. You know, it's not a pay-per-view event. Most people have Netflix. Get on there, support all the women on that card, have a watch, talk about it. Because yes, I know it's different to men's boxing, and you know, that's not going to change, but I appreciate it for what it is, and definitely get behind all those athletes, because there is some good fighters on that card. I have watched Alicia Baumgardner fight a few times, and she's very, very good. So yeah, get in and around that. Obviously, most of you will probably tune in for Katie Taylor vs Serrano because of how good the first two fights are, and I am going to talk about that fight next week. And maybe cover a little bit what's on the undercard, just broadly, because like I said, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim to be an expert on it. Obviously, I watched the first two Taylor Serrano fights, and they were unbelievable. I'll give my prediction who I think is going to win. Obviously, I believe that Taylor won the first one and Serrano won the second one, and I think she was definitely hard done by Serrano in the second one. It should be 1-1, but I can't change that. I'm glad she has a chance to have the final say. All right, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below about everything that we talked about today. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. We're chasing down 100 subscribers. We're nearly at 70. Look, as I say, it's free to like, it's free to subscribe. It does support the channel, and I want to keep making this content and make the content bigger and better as we grow as a channel. Obviously, lots of things are a little bit more difficult. I can bring to the table probably a lot more Australian boxing and things around that than I can international boxing. I would love to get a community built here in which we can start, you know, deep diving, you know, interviews with Australian boxing, talking about Australian boxing. DAZN's bringing out more events out here. There's lots of no limit events. Some big names in Australian boxing, and I want to get in and around it with all of you guys, so please do like, subscribe, share, and I'm out here. See yous.